Welcome back to the Midnight Narrator, where every family has its secrets, but some are darker than others. Tonight's story, The Unseen Guest, will make you question everything you know about the people closest to you. A family gathering turns into a nightmare as one member, great-uncle Silas, seems to slip in and out of reality itself. Who is he, and why can no one remember him the same way? As memories twist and strange occurrences escalate, one question remains. Is Silas even real? Let's step into the mystery and unravel this unsettling tale. My extended family has been experiencing a series of bizarre occurrences over the past few months. It's difficult to articulate the strangeness of it all. I suppose I should begin at the point where things began to feel off. Several months ago, our family held a large gathering. My mother and father each have 2 siblings, all of whom married and had children. Except for my great-uncle Silas. He never married or had any children. This means I have 10 second cousins. My aunts and uncles all live within a short drive, so we've grown up together, sharing many experiences. However, it's rare for all my aunts and uncles to be in the same place at once. This particular gathering, a casual backyard meal, was a rare occasion when everyone's schedules aligned. I won't name every family member. That would be excessive and unnecessary. However, this background information is essential to understanding the situation. My parents and I arrived at my Aunt Clara and Uncle George's house for the barbecue. The backyard was bustling with activity. I mostly kept to myself, eager for the evening to be over. I was primarily there for the food. We were all seated at a long picnic table. I was preoccupied with keeping the napkins from blowing away in the breeze, so I wasn't paying close attention to the conversation. My Aunt Clara brought a platter of heavily charred sausages to the table. My mother immediately chuckled. Is burning food a family trait? How do you all manage to do this every time? The Howards should really leave the cooking to the Davies, my mother said with a playful jab. Uncle George looked confused. What are you talking about, Helen? He responded. I mean, Clara burned the sausages and Silas always sets off the smoke alarm when he tries to cook. Remember that time we had to order takeout 3 nights in a row because of him? Everyone at the table laughed, recalling the incident. Shared sighs of recollection rippled through the group when my father spoke up in Aunt Clara's defense. Helen, what are you saying? Silas is your great-uncle. I shouldn't have to remind you of that. My mother rolled her eyes. I spoke up, suddenly confused about Silas's actual place in the family. All my aunts and uncles acted like siblings, often referring to each other as such. My grandparents frequently referred to their sons, daughters-in-law as their own children, so these distinctions weren't always clear to me. Wait, I'm lost. Which side of the family is great-uncle Silas on? What's the joke? I asked, but I was met only with laughter from the adults. After a moment of silence, my mother finally answered. Don't be silly, dear. Silas is your father's uncle. As she said this, half the table looked perplexed. Helen, what are you talking about? He's on your side. He's a Davies, my Aunt Clara said, scraping the burnt bits off a sausage. Okay, now I'm confused too, my mother said, looking at me with narrowed eyes, then at the rest of the group. Hold on, everyone, Aunt Beatrice said, intervening. This is ridiculous. Silas isn't Helen and my uncle. He has to be a Howard. I watched my family in silence. Their eyes darted back and forth. The laughter had stopped, and they were all simply puzzled. After a few minutes, my mother retrieved her phone and found an old childhood photo. It showed her, my grandparents, my Uncle Peter, and my Aunt Beatrice. Nothing unusual. After examining the picture, Aunt Clara found one of her own. Aha! Found one, she announced, displaying the photo on her phone. Again, it was a normal family picture. My grandparents, my father, Aunt Clara, and Aunt Diana. The next hour was a blur of frantic phone calls and photo exchanges. Each conversation led to another dead end, another conflicting memory. It was as if Silas existed in multiple versions, each tailored to a different perspective. Some of my second cousins were present, but they lost interest after eating. I, however, was completely absorbed. I was determined to understand where Silas fit into the family. They continued to discuss the matter, speculating that perhaps he wasn't a sibling at all. Perhaps he was related through marriage or a distant relative whom we simply called Great Uncle Silas for convenience. Many families have such a figure. The obvious solution, of course, was to call him. I suggested this, but he was at work, and they didn't want to disturb him. I, however, needed answers. I decided to call him anyway. But when I checked my phone, I couldn't find his contact. I searched multiple times. I distinctly remembered texting him a few days prior, so he should have been in my message history. But he was nowhere to be found. After expressing my confusion about his missing contact, I suggested again that someone call him, regardless of his work schedule. No one agreed initially, but when I told them he was missing from my phone, they all checked their own devices. To our shock, he was missing from everyone's contacts. The family began searching through their camera rolls and digital photo libraries, desperately trying to find any image of him. Uncle Arthur thought he had a photo of Silas's back, but we soon realized we all remembered him looking different. Uncle Arthur showed a picture of a bald, tall man. Aunt Beatrice dismissed this, recalling Silas having long, curly brown hair. It wasn't as if we hadn't seen him in years or that he was a distant memory. I'd seen him last week. He'd come to my house to help me with a project. And yet, I couldn't recall his appearance. We were all unnerved. As dusk fell and the air grew cooler, we moved inside. Usually this would signal the end of the gathering, but Aunt Clara started a pot of coffee. It was going to be a long night. The atmosphere was tense and uneasy. None of the adults wanted to leave without answers. They spoke in hushed tones, trying not to alarm the younger cousins. My older second cousin, Lena, seemed oblivious to the situation, focused only on getting some sleep. We convinced her to take my younger cousins to the basement. I, however, was determined to stay. Great Uncle Silas and I were close. How could there be no trace of his existence? As my younger cousins went downstairs, the adults gathered around a large whiteboard Aunt Clara placed on the kitchen island. They began writing down everything they could remember about Silas. His appearance, the last time they saw him, shared memories. Nothing was consistent. He seemed to be a different person in each recollection, even when multiple people were present in the memory. One of the few points of agreement was that the Howards always believed he was a Davies, and the Davies always thought he was a Howard. My mother recalled a story of Silas and my father going fishing at a nearby lake, where the hook got caught in Silas's hat. My father remembered my mother telling him the same story numerous times. Everyone had memories of him being associated with the other side of the family. Soon, everyone was on the phone with other relatives describing the situation and seeking their input. My aunts and uncles spoke to family members I didn't even know existed, relatives who had perhaps only met Silas a few times. Each conversation led to another dead end. No one knew where he came from or where he went. The central question became, who was Silas? Was he a con man who had infiltrated our family, manipulating each side with different stories? Or was it something far more sinister? As dawn broke that Saturday morning, we were still without answers. The initial determination to find Silas had given way to exhaustion and confusion. Napping on the couches felt like admitting defeat, but we were at a loss for what else to do. At 11 a.m., we were awakened by the sound of my younger cousins playing in the next room. We sat up, rubbing our eyes. The realization that the previous night's events were real, not a dream, settled heavily upon us. Aunt Clara, yawning, went to the kitchen to find something for the children to eat. They had clearly already discovered the cookie stash. As the adults spoke quietly, something my second cousin Kara said made us freeze. "Yeah, remember last night when Great Uncle Silas gave us those cookies? It was so fun," she said, skipping happily. "Kara, come here and say that again," my Uncle Arthur said, trying to sound stern, but his voice cracked with exhaustion. Kara approached, looking like a confused puppy. "What did I do wrong, Uncle Arthur? I thought if Great Uncle Silas offered us cookies, I could have them." "Kara, you're not in trouble. This is important. Are you saying Great Uncle Silas was with you last night?" Uncle Arthur asked gently. "Well, not the whole night, but he brought us cookies and put on a movie. Then he said he was going to join you upstairs." Kara said quietly. Everyone began frantically searching the room for any sign of him. We quickly asked the other cousins if they had seen Silas. Some said yes, some said no. I noticed something as I counted the objects in the room. There were 10 adults and me upstairs the previous night. There should have been 11 people, but I counted 12 plates with leftover pizza crusts, 12 places set out for sleeping in the living room, and 12 mugs and cups. He had been here last night. As I pointed out my observation, my father said he vaguely recalled seeing Silas last night, bringing him a glass of water. Uncle Peter remembered seeing him go to the restroom but couldn't recall him returning. They described the feeling as if the memories had been implanted after the fact, a hazy recollection that felt unreal. How else could they have seen Great Uncle Silas and not fully register his presence? A chilling feeling began to grow within me. I felt restless and uneasy. "Wait, something's not right," I announced. "Everyone line up against the wall. I want to try something." They looked at me, confused. They wouldn't normally tolerate me giving them orders, but they were desperate and exhausted. All the adults lined up. I walked along the line, counting aloud. Something strange happened. I counted 12 people, including myself. None of the children were included in the count. I wasn't counting myself twice. There was an extra person. Great Uncle Silas wasn't just here last night. He was here in the room now. Other family members tried counting over and over, even including one of the children, but each time there was an extra person, an unseen presence. How could he be hiding in plain sight? Everyone left Aunt Clara's house that afternoon, thoroughly disturbed. But what could we do? Great Uncle Silas had never been violent. His behavior was mostly unremarkable, aside from a few odd memories. Someone recalled seeing him in the kitchen, stacking and unstacking bowls for hours. Another remembered him packing for a trip with only trash bags in his suitcase. I had a memory of him reading the instruction manual for a food processor as a bedtime story. At least, those were the kinds of memories we had at first. As the weeks passed, the recollections became more concerning. He appeared in our homes in the middle of the night. He gave everyone matching claw hammers for Christmas, each wrapped in blood-red paper. He insisted we hang them above our beds for protection, he said, his voice a low, unsettling whisper. One morning, my father found his car filled with hundreds of identical kitchen knives, meticulously arranged on the seats and dashboard. The blades glinted in the morning sun, a chilling display that no one could explain. Once these disturbing memories surfaced, we tried to involve the authorities, but they couldn't find any record of his existence, so they couldn't help. It didn't help that we couldn't even provide a last name. How could they find a man named Silas with no discernible features? So who was Great Uncle Silas? I truly have no idea. Was he a man? An entity? A figment of our collective imagination? Or nothing at all? I don't know. And that's the most unsettling part. He seems to be present at every family gathering. Most of the time, I count the attendees and find an extra person. He feels like an infection, implanting memories of his presence, yet remaining unseen in the moment. It's become a morbid family joke to set an extra place for him. But no one seems to grasp the seriousness of the situation. He hasn't harmed anyone. But why wait for something to happen? I can feel his presence. The hairs on my neck stand on end. My family has given up trying to understand who or what Great Uncle Silas is. But I haven't. They seem to have forgotten the more disturbing memories. But the deeper I delve, the more unsettling the recollections become, as if he's actively decaying within my memory. It's as if he's trying to deter me from searching for him. The fact that he's reacting makes my concern grow. Why is he hiding now that I'm aware of him? What is he afraid I'll discover? And what will happen when I do? I will find you, Great Uncle Silas. I will uncover your true nature. But a chilling thought lingers. What if finding him means finding myself changed too? And that concludes the unseen guest. A family bound by love, but haunted by a presence they cannot escape. Was Silas a man, an entity, or something far worse, an illusion crafted by a mind gone awry? As the family faces the terrifying truth of his existence, the line between memory and nightmare blurs. And as for the narrator, The search for Silas continues. But at what cost? What happens when you chase a shadow so relentlessly that it starts to chase you back? If this story unsettled you, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more unsettling tales. Until next time, remember, sometimes the ones who aren't there are the ones who matter the most. This is the Midnight Narrator, and we'll be waiting for you, right behind the forgotten door.